it's me, Amanda, the Lazy Stitcher, and today I'm going to talk about books I read in December. I do plan on doing a Stitchy update soon, but I'm going to record that next week. Who knows when I'll actually post these videos, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's talk books first. The first book I read was, and I keep having to check the name because it's a little long, Second Chances in Newport Stephen. So I got this, so I went ahead, I subscribed to Afterlight, which is like part of Illumicrate. The problem is Afterlight is based in the UK and the shipping is quite pricey, which, you know, I obviously knew that was going to be the case, but I couldn't help it. I got one book and then canceled. So that's this little guy. That's this one here. All right. And look, it has pretty edges, and it's a physically pretty book, basically. Now, this one is about two gentlemen, Nick and Eli. Eli is actually trans, female to male, and he is going home for the holidays after losing his job. Comedian who was in charge of the show, or the main comedian, had a big scandal, and as a result the show got canceled. So anyway, he is going to be living at home for a little while, and it's Christmas time, and he meets up with his ex who had dated him pre-transition. So it's a second chance romance, and it has a new cool spin to it with the whole Eli being trans part. I didn't enjoy this book as much as I'd hoped I would. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a heterosexual girly, so I tend to prefer, lady-men relationships, but I'm alright, I'm open-minded, let's go for it. And I do think I would I do think it's good for me to expose myself, get myself out there for more, not straight relationships. That part wasn't an issue with this book. I just didn't like Eli, which is unfortunate because Eli is the character who transitioned. Eli, throughout the book, is just kind of combative with everybody. And there are reasons given for, example, problems that he's had with his parents, but his parents very clearly love him very much and show a lot of appreciation towards him, and they do really incredibly thoughtful and kind things for him. And it's just I think you're being a little unnecessarily harsh on them at the moment, and also he's not particularly... For someone who goes to therapy, he is not a good communicator. He's pretty horrible communicator. So I was just kind of I didn't understand why. Nick was absolutely perfect. He's he's like a dreamboat. And then I didn't understand why he was attracted to Eli, someone who just didn't seem like he was... I didn't get the attraction because Eli just wasn't doing it for me. But I did enjoy a few particularly funny quotes in it, and it wasn't a bad romance as a whole. I just think that it could have, I think if Eli were a more likable character, it would have worked a little bit better for me. I give this one 3.5 stars. The next book I read, I actually got from my local library. My town is quite small, and we do have a library, but it doesn't have a huge selection. However, on Facebook, they posted that they had a book that I actually did want to read. They had just gotten it. And that is Starter Villain by John Scalzi. Now, I, a long time ago, read Red Shirts by John Scalzi. I loved it. I think I gave it 5 stars at the time, although I think current me would probably rate it more like 4 stars because I'm a little more picky about my 5 stars these days. The cover of this book, which I'll have floating right here. Okay, unfortunately StoryGraph is failing me right now, so good luck if I can remember what I actually specifically rated things, but... it's about a gentleman named Charlie, and his uncle, he's been estranged from for quite a while, passes away, and he was a billionaire. And Charlie inherits his business, which, what do you know, his uncle was a villain. Literally a villain. So now Charlie has to take over being a villain, a literal, super villain. Not super... I suppose. He doesn't have, like, magic powers, but, like, a villain. And that's the basic concept. It also has, like, genetically engineered intelligent cats and dolphins, and, like, it's funny, it's entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I liked the ending quite a bit. I gave it 4.25 stars. I recommend this one if you want something that's, like, a little bit sci-fi, and it's just funny and entertaining. And, like, what I also really liked about this book is that it's technically really high stakes, and yet I never felt stressed out about it, if that makes sense. It's like the opposite of some of the low stakes stuff that I've been reading. This is high stakes yet still cozy somehow. Not really cozy, but, like, not stressful. I had to look up the names for the next one. I'm so bad about the names of characters. So, next book I read, I have another physical book. I have my book of the month. I got A Winter in New York. I did not veer out of my comfort zone, so I got romance. This one is a contemporary romance. Basic concept of this one is it's a young woman named Iris. Iris, I think, got out of a bad breakup. I can't remember much about this book, which is a little sad. But anyway, Iris is, yeah, she was in an abusive relationship, I think. Like, mentally abusive, I think. She goes into a gelato place and meets a guy named Gio, who's a very handsome Italian man. And she comes to realize that their gelato that she has the recipe for their gelato. She has the secret recipe because somehow her mom got it. And, we can kind of presume that the grandfather of Gio, or is it, no, it's his uncle that took him in. Yes, it's his uncle that took him in. He must have given her the recipe, and this is, like, a big controversial thing. Okay. And then, but instead of, like, being a normal person and telling him, like, hey, I have the recipe, okay. So, Gio's uncle, sorry, I cannot remember anything about this book. Gio's uncle had a stroke, and he can't remember the gelato recipe. But Iris has it. So instead of being a normal person and saying, wow, I somehow by some weird chance happen to have your gelato recipe, let me help you, she wants to help him, but she just sort of, like, tries to lead him in the right direction while helping, and of course they fall in love. And that's basically all I can say about that. This isn't a bad book, but as you can obviously see, it's not a super memorable one, unfortunately. It's a cute contemporary romance. It's not particularly Christmassy. Just as a note, there is Christmas at the end, but then it ends more at, like, New Year's, I believe. It's not a bad book. It's just, I didn't find the characters, I obviously just didn't find it particularly memorable. I think it actually does have a little bit of spice to it too, but not a ton. It's not bad. Like, good luck. I forget what I rated it. Probably 3 stars in that range. Okay, after that I finished an audiobook. I finished Missy Lee by Arthur Ransom. Now, Missy Lee is the last book I needed to finish in the Swallows and Amazon series. I've read so many of these books. Some things to note about Missy Lee. So, this is not actually the last book in the series, but I listened to it last because it is not, it's metafiction, as my husband put it. It's very clear that the characters that are in this universe made up this story. And it is basically they're sailing around in the China Seas and they get captured by pirates, and they end up becoming a prisoner of this lady named Missy Lee, who's Chinese and really wants them to learn Latin. I don't know. This book is super duper duper racist. Now, a lot of these books are racist. They were written in, like, the 1930s. I get it. Like, overall, I've been pretty non-judgmental of these books despite a lot of the racism. I mean, I am a white woman, so I guess I have the privilege of being able to be like, eh. But anyway, this one is particularly egregious. Like, a lot of them you can go, well, times have changed. You can kind of, it's one of those things where you can have a conversation with your kid and be like, by the way, they don't use this term anymore. This isn't really technically okay. Stuff like that. But in this particular book, it's bad. It's just really bad. Like the way they view the way the Chinese people are viewed. In fact, they are just called Chinese most of the time. Like one Chinese did this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's just yeah. And there's not enough in this book to redeem it to make it worth reading, despite racism. Which, like, I know that's probably extremely debatable, and a lot of people will be like, no amount of racism's okay, but just pointing out, like, it's not even, there's no real good side to this book. I highly don't recommend it. I give it like 2 stars, which I think is actually pretty generous, so they can't all be winners. So the next book I read was Hester by Lori Lico Albanese. We're gonna go with that. I'm sorry. Now this book was recommended to me by my husband's aunt. And she gave me the book, and then I think she'd read it, thought I would like it, and then I've passed it on to my father-in-law, so I don't have it right now. This book is actually, I thought this book was really interesting. It's actually about the author of the Scarlet Letter, Nathaniel Hawthorne. Not just him, though, not him specifically, but he's in it. It is about a young lady named Isabel. Isabel is, I believe, Scottish. She's Scottish or Irish. I can't quite remember. I think it's Scottish. And basically, she has the ability to, like, when she looks at things, she sees extra colors, I guess you could say. Like, when she reads things, the letters have colors. So her mother's, and this is also historical, I should clarify, it's historical. I think it takes place in the 1800s or 1700s, something in that range. So her mother is like, people are going to think you're a witch, don't tell anybody you can do this. And she eventually gets married. Her husband seems like a decent guy at first, but he gets into an accident and becomes addicted to drugs. Basically like, like opium and whatnot, in order to try to deal with his pain. Loses their money, and they have to move to America in order to get a fresh, clean start. And Isabel, and then her husband goes off on a ship. I feel like, unfortunately, this is a lot of the book, and I hope I'm not spoiling too much, but I feel like this is kind of necessary for understanding what the book is actually about. But her husband goes off to be the doctor. He is not a doctor. He's kind of like he's like a alchemist, pharmacist, kind of I forget exactly the word was. But he's like, I'm a doctor now, he goes off on a ship to be the doctor, and he's going to be gone for months. And she ends up falling in love with Nathaniel Hawthorne, the guy who wrote the Scarlet Letter. And the idea is that she as a person is the inspiration for the character Hester in the Scarlet Letter. Now, the only problem is I haven't read the Scarlet Letter, so I can't. Unfortunately, I lost a level of depth in that, but I did really enjoy this book. What I liked is that Hester she embroiders. That's what she does. And I, as we all know, cross-stitch. And so if you are somebody who's into cross-stitching, embroidering, that is like a heavy element of this book. It's how she makes her living. Yeah, this book is good. I really enjoyed it. There are a few, like, plot holes. Like, for example, at one point when her husband leaves, he takes her money, and she's like, oh god, I'm screwed. But, like, but it was money she had hidden, right? But, like, what was she gonna do if he hadn't, like, how did he think she would be okay otherwise? Like, he didn't leave her any other money? I was confused about it because this is money she had hidden away. But, like, how is she? And he was like, I don't want you working and embroidering. But, like, how is she supposed to survive if he didn't leave her any money either? Like, I thought this was extra money. I don't know. That was a little confusing. I didn't get that plot point. But as a whole, I actually really enjoyed this book. And it's talking about the emotions of falling in love with someone who ends up being unavailable, and she ends up in a bad situation. And but she's a fairly strong female character, and there's also stuff going on with her neighbor who is black, and she is a freed woman. She's a free woman, though. Anyway, I enjoyed this book, and I do honestly recommend it. I gave it at least 4 stars. At least 4 stars, if not more. Probably more like 4.25, at least. It was good. I recommend that if you want some historical fiction. Oh yeah, and then I read the second How to Train Your Dragon book, by Cressida Cowell, How to Be a Pirate. It was fine. That book, basically, they're doing, like, pirate training, and they find this guy inside of a coffin that says that it's Hiccup's ancestor. And the guy's telling them that there's some treasure on some island with these crazy, dangerous dragons. I mean, it goes on from there. It's a kid's book, middle grade, I would say. And my kids enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. I probably gave it somewhere in the range of 3 stars. It was fine. Like I've mentioned before, these books are nothing like the movies or the TV show or any of that. Very, very different. But still entertaining, especially if you're a young child. And then I decided I wanted to go with some Christmas romance. So I read and listened to like 4 in a row. First one is a novella. This one is called How to Lose a Guy Before Christmas by A.J. Pine. Now, this one is an Audible original, and it was free. So the price was right. I decided to go for it. It's really short. This one is basically, oh God, okay. This one is a chick named Lucy, and unfortunately they don't have the guy's name in the description on Goodreads, and StoryGraph is failing me. So I don't remember his name, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, it's their romance. Maybe it's Alex. I feel like it might be Alex. And what happened in this situation is they both were on a hookup app, they hooked up, and then Lucy ghosted him. He was bitter and angry about this. And then she is trying to get home for Christmas during a huge snowstorm, and she does a rideshare, like a specific rideshare situation with, and guess what? He's the one who's bringing her. Oh no. And so they're stuck in a car together. They crash and end up in this super Christmassy town. There you go. You know, it was cute. It's actually a spicy one, which this is the first time I've actually listened to a spicy audiobook. I've never done that before. It was fine, except the male narrator is terrible. The girl was great. She was fantastic. The man was terrible. Like, he sounded like he was supposed to be in a grisly, like, thriller, like one of those spy things, like Jason Bourne or something, and like he's really, really manly, and I was like, oh my God, this is not, no, I don't want this man anywhere near me. He's a little too much. And like, it did not work, especially for the personality of the guy too. Like, maybe it would work if it was literally like a romance with like an ex-military spy dude, but like, it's not. He's supposed to be just a guy, and he's honestly really nice. So no, I didn't like it. It was a big no. And then there's also a third act conflict, and I'm just gonna straight up spoil it because, like, I don't have many subscribers, and the people who are subscribed probably don't care and are probably never going to listen to this audiobook, okay? So if you really do care, you can skip ahead. But, like, the third act conflict is that his best friend is named Kyle, and then you find out Kyle's a woman! No! And Lucy freaks out, basically. She's just like, oh my god, you can't be friends with a woman, because, like, her last boyfriend cheated on her. This happens, like, every single book I read, it seems like. But anyway, her last boyfriend cheated on her, so he can't be friends with a woman? And she basically, like, ditches him, breaks up with him because of this. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. It was one of the most, and, like, the second half of it is, it's all her fault, okay? Because she's being absolutely ridiculous and unreasonable. But the second half of it that made it even more ridiculous was that he didn't even tell her, like Kyle's married and has young children. Like, he just had to say that. You know what I mean? But he's just like, okay. Anyway, that woman did not deserve to be forgiven that many times. It was, no. So I gave it like 2.75 stars. You don't need to. Don't. Okay, next one, and I actually remember that rating. Okay, next one I read was Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. This one is Stella and Luca. Why? I can't remember a single name. It's because when you read romance, it's just like, what are names? They just leave. I just can't remember them. But anyway, Stella and Luca. Stella owns a Christmas tree farm, and her Christmas tree farm is not doing well. There's a bunch of, like, little weird problems that have been happening. Yeah, she's really worried about it. So she is like, you know what? I'm going to enter this contest that this big time influencer is having, and hopefully, you know, we'll win the contest and get a bunch of publicity, and it'll help save the Christmas tree farm. But there's one catch. She lies about the fact that Luca, her best friend, is her boyfriend. Well, she doesn't say it specifically Luca, but she says she owns the Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend. So she's like, hey, Luca, bestie, who she's, of course, secretly in love with, will you pretend to be my boyfriend? And, of course, fake dating ensues, and guess what? They both have had the hots for each other. I know, it's shocking. Anyway, this was great, though. Like, it was really good. I loved the spice in it. Like, the sex scenes were honestly really good. Like, really well written, in my opinion. And, like, there's another, like, not entirely spicy scene that happens when, like, they're both sleepy. And it's like, it was good. It was good. It did it. It did the job. So, like, it's a good, solid friends to lovers romance. I love friends to lovers. There's never enough. Like, and it oftentimes is done poorly. It's done really well. I highly recommend this one. I forget what I rated it. 4.5 stars? Maybe? Yeah, probably 4.5 stars. So I recommend that if you want a nice Christmas romance. Okay, this one is shocking because I actually do remember the characters' names. I remembered them without having to look it up. But this one, the next one I did another one of the Audible originals, like the short novella. And it was called On a Night Like Tonight by Liz Maverick. Now, this one is a Hanukkah romance, which I didn't realize that, but I enjoyed it. It was really cute. So this one is basically Cher. She lives in California, and she does an apartment swap thing with a guy who lives in New York. And then across from her is Elliot, who is sad because he was in love with one of his friends, and then he went ahead and confessed, and she didn't feel the same way, and, you know, he's been bummed about it for quite a while. And then Cher went through a bad breakup not too long ago. So it's their romance. It's a Hanukkah romance. It is very Hanukkah. So, like, if you're Jewish and you want something, like, right up your alley, this is it. I think this one is a clean romance. I don't remember anything spicy happening. The narrators are pretty good. The lady who voices Cher is she's very, very bubbly, but I think it is appropriate for the character, so she did a good job. I wasn't crazy about the guy narrator, but he was way better than that last one. So, like, you know, he was much more, like, it worked. And like, it's cute. I forget what I rated it. It's in the range between 3 and 4 stars, probably on the lower half. I would guess maybe 3.5 stars is probably what I rated this. It's worth it because it was free and it was short. So if you want a quick little cute Hanukkah romance. Then I read A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. This one is a historical, I forget exactly what time period, but historical romance. And this one has Sophie and Mr. Sharp. And what happens is Mr. Sharp has been courting Sophie, but he's been very dull, has not had much of a personality. And Sophie's like, I don't think this guy's into me. I'm not really into him. So she's like, let's break it off. Like, this is not, you're not into me. I'm not into you. We don't suit. And she says that's how the book starts. And what she doesn't realize is that he's actually really into her. But he's just been trying to be a proper gentleman about it. And he's been going about it the wrong way, unfortunately. And by basically not having a personality. And then she ends up kind of regretting the decision because like her family's in a situation where they really need money and he is new money. I forget what his job is, but he's actually very well off, but he's not in the same class as her. However, her family's desperate enough that they're like, no, you should marry this rich guy. Anyway, it's their romance and they have like a big Christmas party, and you know, it's one of those parties where everyone comes and lives at somebody's house for like a couple of weeks to a month or whatever, and of course the romance between them is reignited. It was really, really cute. I recommend it a lot. I really loved it. It was super cute. This is clean, I believe, but like I don't care. It was great. You know, it was very, very romantic and sweet. I definitely highly recommend it. Again, I forgot what I rated it. 4.5 stars, maybe? It is somewhere in that range. I'm almost... Oh, and that's it! Oh, finally, I made it. That was the last thing I read. Whew, I forgot. So yes, it was a lot. I had a really good reading year. I might or might not make a video just talking about my reading accomplishments. I read 109 books this year, which is crazy. Like, even when I was reading a lot 10 plus years ago, my best year was like around 75 books, I think. I might not have made quite that many. But yeah, it was around 75 books. So good for me. I have read one other book since so far this year in January. Today is the 5th that I'm recording this. And I'm in the middle of another one right now. But anyway, I hope you're all doing well. If you actually watched all of this, thank you. You can give me like a snowflake emoji. I'm hoping for some snow because it's been kind of a sad winter so far. Hope you're all doing well.